6:32, this breaking news from overnight. Astra Zeneca and Oxford University have announced their vaccine is highly effective in preventing the coronavirus.
Channel 2's Brittany Jeffers is following the latest for us on this. Brittany, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, AstraZeneca says that it looked at 2 different dosing regimens when testing out this vaccine. And meanwhile, other health officials are saying that we may see these vaccinations start to roll out a lot sooner than expected. Another big development in the fight against the coronavirus. AstraZeneca now releasing new information on the effectiveness of a potential vaccine. This is a breakdown of the numbers. It was assessed over 2 different dosing regimens, showing 90% effective when recipients received a half dose followed by a full dose 1 month apart. It was 62% effective when given as 2 full doses 1 month apart. Combined, the analysis brings it to an average of 70% effective. With Pfizer, Madonna, and Astra Zeneca vaccinations in the works, there may be a difference in the price tag as well. According to CNBC, Moderna could cost the most per dose at $32 to $37, Pfizer at $20 a dose, and AstraZeneca at just $3 or $4. The big question is, when will the vaccines be available to the public? The chief science advisor is calling this Operation Warp Speed, and some health officials say Americans could receive the vaccine in the next 3 weeks. But just how realistic is that time frame?
Well, I think we have to let each step play out. The evidence has gone to the FDA. We'll probably also see the CDC weigh in on the top priority groups, given the data that's there.
Health officials say they want to reiterate that all of these vaccinations will likely be rolled out in stages. Reporting live this morning from Humble, I'm Brittany Jeffers, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
All right, Brittany, thank you.
The vaccine is coming out soon. I won't be talking about it, but I will tell you about the company behind it. The UK government has purchased 30 million doses of COVID mRNA vaccine from a company called Pfizer. The vaccine is due to be delivered in November, with the potential of 100 million doses by the end of the year and 1.3 billion doses next year.
News just out. Pfizer says it could be ready to apply for emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine candidate by late November.
It won't be mandatory at the beginning, but judging from the large orders, a gradual plan will be implemented to persuade and incentivize people to take the vaccine and put restrictions on people that don't, along with shaming campaigns.
I want to tell them that their decision, they need to understand, will not affect only their lives, which at the end of the day, it is their judgment, but will affect the lives of others. Because if they don't vaccinate, they will become the weak link that will allow this virus to replicate.
Some will say that this is conspiracy theory, so let's just stick to the facts. The government trusted Pfizer to vaccinate the British people, so it's logical to want to inquire into the company's track record in safety and ethics. After all, they must be trustworthy in fighting for humanity, right? Pfizer made itself one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world by purchasing its competitors and through aggressive marketing tactics. What I'm about to tell you is only 20% of their rap sheet, otherwise this video would be hours long, but you can go to our website where you can see the full list. Pfizer received the biggest criminal fine in US history as part of a $2.3 billion settlement with federal prosecutors for mispromoting medicines and for paying kickbacks to compliant doctors. Pfizer pleaded guilty to misbranding the painkiller Bextra by promoting the drug for uses that were not approved by medical regulators. In the 90s, they were involved in defective heart valves that led to the deaths of more than 100 people. The company had deliberately misled regulators about the hazards. The company agreed to pay $10.75 million to settle Justice Department charges. Pfizer also had a class action suit with a $60 million settlement over Resolin, diabetes medication that resulted in patients dying from acute liver failure, said to be caused by the drug. In the UK, they have been fined nearly £90 million by the UK's competition watchdog for unfair pricing to the NHS after hiking up the cost of an anti-epilepsy drug by 2,500%, charging the taxpayer an extra £48 million than the actual price, which is £2 million per year. Buying competitors and mis-selling drugs weren't the only factors in making them the giant of a company they are. Their special relations with doctors and medical professionals has also helped. In 2004, Pfizer's subsidiary agreed to pay $430 million to resolve criminal charges that it paid physicians to prescribe its epilepsy drug, Neurontin, to patients with ailments for which the medication was not approved. In 2010, a federal jury found that Pfizer committed racketeering fraud in its marketing of the drug. Pfizer disclosed that during a 6-month period the previous year, it had paid $20 million to some 4,500 doctors and other medical professionals for speaking on the company's behalf. In 2012, the US Securities and Exchange Commission announced that it had reached a $45 million settlement with Pfizer to resolve charges that its subsidiaries had bribed overseas doctors and other healthcare professionals to increase foreign sales. But some of you might say they are a business and they don't get to make billions a year by not being competitive. They're still trying to help humanity. Pfizer was sued in a US federal court by Nigerian families who accused the company of testing a dangerous new antibiotic called Unproven on children without parents' consent and using their children as human guinea pigs. A panel of medical experts concluded that Pfizer had violated international law, and the company agreed to pay $75 million to settle the lawsuits in Nigerian courts. The US case was settled for an undisclosed amount. Amid widespread criticism of high pricing for poor countries, and in particular AIDS medications, Pfizer offered to donate a 2-year supply of its drug, Diflucan, worth $50 million to the South African government. Yet in 2003, Pfizer backed away from the company's plan to license its AIDS drug for low-cost distribution in poor countries. The list goes on. I don't want to bore you with it. But ask yourself, if it was a car manufacturer, would you buy a car from them?
We plan to honor our history, and we will only bring to the world a vaccine that has been proven safe and efficacious.
If Pfizer is trustworthy enough to be given one of the keys to vaccinate the population with something that was knocked up in a few months, and with such a track record for safety and ethics, I know what I think. Do you?
People are more glued at home. They have more time. So in some ways, maybe this was inevitable, but I know my husband is not vaccinating people and putting a microchip in her arm because that technology doesn't even exist and he's never uttered the words out of his mouth. So
the government is reducing their bar for approval under the Emergency Use Authorization Act. So the bar is not as high as they have shown for their other vaccines.
It sets a lower bar, essentially, in order to get drugs or vaccines to market faster.
There is not a lot of data available about potential long-term risks and side effects. We really don't know what it fully will do to us in the long term. And they can't tell us either because there is no data. But they want us to trust them and take it nonetheless, and trust the science. Right now, they are saying that Pfizer has met the steps and requirement it needs to get emergency authorization use, which again lowers the standards for approval. The point is, it's happening at an unprecedented pace. The second point is probably the biggest. The two companies that have been claimed to have success with making this vaccine are Pfizer and Madonna. I believe Pfizer had to come out first because of the overall understanding of this next point. Moderna is a relatively new company. It was founded just a decade ago in 2010. Everyone should know it has never made a vaccine or drug that has gone through FDA approval. This vaccine that they want to give to the masses is their first product being put through the FDA process for approval. The most important thing to know of this company, Moderna, is that they are the pioneers of a new technology where they produce modified RNA. Look at their name, Moderna. Take out the E. You see mod for modified, RNA. Modified RNA. And that is the new technology that they are the pioneers of. This second point that we need to know is that this vaccine is using new technology never used before on humans, called mRNA, messenger RNA. So I am not a doctor or scientist, so my understanding is very limited. But the way I understand it is this. We need to first talk about normal vaccines. So from my understanding, the way former vaccines work are that they inject people with a dead or weakened virus, and our bodies then create antibodies that will guard against that virus. So if it comes across a live virus, the antibodies that were created will kill that live virus. Basically, you introduce the body to a dead virus so that it can protect itself from the live virus if it ever comes across it. Now, in the case of how they are making this vaccine today, this is again quite different, and this is something that they should be informing and educating us all on, but obviously they are not. Now, the information is out there, but it's for those who are seeking it. For the regular public who just trust in the media, they are not giving it out in this way. They are using new technology, mRNA, messenger RNA. This technology creates a synthetic RNA strand that creates the antibodies instead. The mRNA does not require injecting a dead or weakened virus into the body. So instead of injecting the dead virus into your body, they are injecting a synthetic strand of RNA, which is like instructions. And these instructions are supposed to create the antibodies to fight off the coronavirus. And this is why they were able to move so fast, because they don't have to spend the time duplicating the dead virus. They just need to replicate the synthetic RNA.
The Moderna and Pfizer vaccines both use this brand new technology known as messenger RNA. And there are differences in the two vaccines, in the way they're formulated, in the way they're put together, and actually in the way they're dosed. Pfizer's vaccine is given as 2 doses 3 weeks apart, whereas Moderna's is given as 2 doses 4 weeks apart. Now, from the outside, these vaccines are going to look very, very similar, except in that dosing regimen. But because there are these small differences in the way they're made and designed, they could work differently in different populations.
In an article in the Wall Street Journal titled, "Moderna and Pfizer are reinventing vaccines, starting with COVID," it says, the unproven technology named messenger RNA, after the molecular couriers that deliver genetic instructions, has long eluded researchers. An mRNA vaccine has never been cleared by regulators. It is now the basis for COVID-19 vaccines from Madonna Inc. and Pfizer Inc. and its partner BioNTech SE. With the platform in place, Moderna could quickly design new drugs or vaccines by inserting the relevant snippet of mRNA, said Moderna Chief Executive Stephanie Bancel. He calls mRNA the software of life. The article also says this mRNA platform is essentially fully synthetic. It's a defined molecule that can be made very, very quickly. So you don't need anything live. No live virus, no live cell culture, no eggs, no anything, Dr. Jensen said. And I believe the science is doing a certain reprogramming of our genome that they are not explaining. But this is what I believe. You can agree or disagree with my opinion. People can also go around and do all the fact checking that they want, but it's undeniable that this mRNA technology is new,